Good afternoon, everyone, all those who are watching and all on the panel. Uh, Welcome to the session this afternoon. Thank you very much for taking time. You are entrepreneurs. For you, time is money. You do a whole lot of things, stuff yourself. You don't have large numbers to be running your businesses. So it's really good to have entrepreneurs make some time for uh, other people and helping other people do their business as well in the middle of when you're taking care of and in these challenging times when several of you, I'm sure, are still working from home. Your teams are working from home. So of course, I'm sure you've made the best out of it by now, but then still, the challenges remain. What we are talking about this afternoon in this session is Digital India Reimagined. Krishna talked about how the government is has been talking about Digital India for several years. But we all know that government has its own role to play, which they're doing to the extent that they can. But digital revolution all across the world has been driven by entrepreneurs of all sizes. We have seen the school dropouts reaching wherever. We have seen people from the best of education institutions, people who've had the best of jobs, best of businesses, family businesses that left those and joined this. So I definitely feel that the Digital India revolution is being driven by entrepreneurs. So no better people to talk about that than the panel we have this afternoon on this session. So what we can do is, in fact, to establish the topic, I'll request the panelists to talk briefly about their business and how that business is linked to overall bigger cause or a larger cause of Digital India, which of course is aimed at making the lives of Indian citizens more livable, bring in prosperity to their lives, bring in health to their lives. So a little bit you can talk about your own business, tell the audience as to the business that you do and how it links to the larger agenda that the country has. So maybe we can go alphabetical and start with Abhishek Kothari. If you could talk about your business. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Sunil. It's of course a pleasure to be here, and I'm more excited to hear from the other panelists about what exciting businesses they're building, some of whom we work with even at this point. And so a little bit about Flexiloans. The problem that we're solving is effectively providing a debt to SMEs in India. And if you look at it, there is about 6 crore small businesses in India today, or in the organized sector as per the census, and there'll be many more that don't become a part of this calculation. And about 70 to 90%, depending on which report you're reading, are underserved or unserved by today's financial system. And our mandate as a company is to effectively provide access to working capital and capital to these companies. And we're talking about these small micro SMEs, the typical kirana store, pharmacy store, the mobile wala, the single proprietors with 1 or 2 employees in their shop, typically run by themselves, has a CA, has some stock in the shop, and so on. So this is the typical fuel of the economy, the guys that you go to service your daily needs. And we provide working capital to these businesses. It's been about 4 years. Lending is one of the largest plays in human civilization. But what happens really is when things like Aadhaar and internet penetration and affordable smartphones, they're all coming together. So in 2016-17, this perfect storm was created where a lot of fintechs were born, and we were one of them. And the idea is really to, out of the 6 crore SMEs, provide as much working capital to as many SMEs as we can, through a very potent mix of technology, data science, and a branchless infrastructure. So we have 0 branches, 0 agents on the street, 0 employees who are visiting people, and we today service pan-India, and we do crores of lending every month. But having put together all of that and all other fintechs in this space, out of a 6 crore SME base, we all together have done probably about 5 lakh loans. So you can imagine we are only scratching the surface. And of course, this is a test match. We are in the first over.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Deep, let's hear your story. Deep, Bajaj.
You're on mute.
Sorry for this technology.
No worries.
Hi guys, I'm Deep Bajaj from Sirona Hygiene. As a company, we identify and solve those intimate and menstrual hygiene issues faced by women which are not addressed. That's the sweet spot. For instance, for dirty toilets, we came up with India's first female urination device by the name of P-Buddy, using which women can stand and pee. For menstrual cramps, we came up with Sirona herbal feminine pain relief patches, which are natural, and we offer many wider range of solutions for menstrual flow, like menstrual cups, tampons, natural biodegradable pads, etc. Now, today, majority of these products are best sellers online. But if you look at these products, they're all intimate hygiene products, and there's a large taboo around these. Women are still not made comfortable when they walk into pharmacy stores to buy some of these products. Distribution is another challenge. And for all these things, when you look at the way digital economy is now moving, it makes this entire transaction seamless. Whether it's the dialogue, whether it's the discovery of products, or it is about the transaction, it has simplified it for consumers. For especially our industry, digital revolution has actually revolutionized the way women are interacting with these modern D2C brands like us. So this is what I do.
Thank you, Deep. Gaurav, Kumar, let's hear your story. No, you're on mute, Gaurav. No worries. Yeah.
Thanks, Sunil. So we at Vivriti Capital and Trade Avenue, we run a fairly large B2B online marketplace. And I think having seen the debt capital markets over many years, I think what we thought of disrupting 3 years back was the debt capital marketplace, where the interest has been fairly low. Right? And today, if you look at where debt capital markets is, where equity markets was almost 3 decades back. Right? And the power of equity markets going online not only solved for a lot of discovery and businesses, being able to raise capital and create stakeholder value and not just shareholders value. I think on the debt capital market side is the market is extremely skewed towards, I would say AAA and AA. There is no market which exists beyond AA. And what we have been able to do, at least over the last, just a start, what we have been able to do is raise over 30,000 odd crores of debt capital for enterprises through our platform. And out of 30,000 odd crores, I would say more than 24,000 odd crores have come for enterprises which are in the unrated to A category. Right. So our focus is to invest significantly to deepen the debt capital markets for enterprises, and thereby raising more and more efficient capital for them so that their businesses can actually solve for the hard problems which they are really set up for.
Thank you so much. Mehul, of course, Cast 24, the amount of money spent on advertising, I don't think you need a 30-second commercial here on this webinar, but you can tell us a larger vision is linked to economy. Honestly, don't tell us that it helps people sell their old cars and how people need to buy it. No, just tell us what's the place of this piece of automobile industry, if I can call it, in the economy, in the larger economy, and particularly in the face of digital.
Yeah, thanks, Sunil. It's a pleasure to be part of this forum. You're right, Cars 24 is the part of digital revolution. We are trying to solve the problem of transacting and financing used cars digitally. Been building this business since 2015. I think fundamentally, auto penetration in India is still a very low figure. We still have around 20 odd people per thousand of our population who own cars, which is a way smaller number than more developed economies like US or Europe, where that number hovers at 700 or 800, right? So I think over next few decades, the fact that auto will grow is undoubtedly a true fact. The question was, used car is already a critical driver there. It's 1.5 times bigger than new car. So there are actively people trading those transactions. But how do we make it more organized? Because this entire industry has been very fragmented. So the way we add value is, we brought the entire digital angle to it to say this traditional industry, which has been all about, physical transactions and, physical movement of cars and people seeing it and deciding on it and, making gut-based call and heuristic-based calls. How do we convert all of that using the power of data and technology into a digital world? And that's the core of what we solve today. So, pretty much when you come to sell your car to us, we have a real-time auction platform where we have more than 10,000 dealers on the other side who are, participating, bidding, fighting, competing on each of those cars to win them and buy them out. And all of this is happening virtually. So we don't do a physical meeting. We don't do any of that physically, but we do all of that virtually. And that platform has been the reason why we have scaled to like almost 15,000 cars, a month, run rating at like 5,000 crores of transactions every year. But all of that we do digital. And now because we have built so much of knowledge and data, we have also ventured on helping people to buy cars and helping people to get their cars financed as well. So pretty much a one-stop digital solution for buying, selling or financing used cars.
Very encouraging. Saket, you tell us about Onnivation Ventures. Yeah. Unmute and you can talk.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you. Onnivation is a company where we invest in deep tech startups primarily in Israel, bring them into India and run their India business. I started about 4 years ago with the objective every time I go to the US, I would eat at Chipotle or I would drive a Tesla. But none of these companies were looking at India as a market. And in my next trip to Israel, I realized that they have a lot of deep tech innovations technology that would support the scale and growth.
I don't know if it's me or everyone else, but Saket, we can't hear you very well.
1 second, let me just.
No.
Hello.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Okay, so I started Onnivation about 4 years ago. We invest in deep tech startups in Israel and run their India business. The thesis is similar to how all of us who've been to the US want to bring Chipotle into India or want to bring a Tesla into India. Usually these companies are focused on the US and after a long time they enter the Indian market. So similarly, I went for a trip to Israel once and I realized that they have a lot of deep tech because of their military background and their focus is also the US market. So I said, can I bring the most innovative technologies from Israel and run their India business and support the growing digital businesses, all the consumer businesses that are scaling really, really fast and they need a lot of support on the back end to sustain that scale. So over a period of 3-4 years, we've got 15 joint ventures with different Israeli startups. We've made a lot of investments in some of the best venture capital funds in Israel, some of the best startups in Israel. And, primarily these startups are solving for 3 main areas, which is cloud, data, and security. So if you look at the panel today, Abhishek and Mehul and Gaurav, everyone mentioned a lot about data, automatic inspection of cars for Mehul. All this requires a lot of expertise on the backend stuff, which Israel has been very, very good at. So I figured this niche, said, can I provide a very smooth gateway for these companies to penetrate the Indian market? And today, almost all the Indian apps you have on your phone, they are using some or the other technology. And we're very proud that we're powering them to grow digitally faster.
Thank you so much, Saket. So I think now that we know what your business is, I think together we can really do it in the spirit of supporting each other, helping each other. Let's figure out what the drivers of growth in the coming years are going to be. Right now we can bring in what we've seen during the pandemic, continuing pandemic, I would say, still not over, far from being over. What factors do we see to be driving the digital economy in the coming years? We all know about 5G would come sooner or later. More advanced devices are going to be there. Ownership of devices is going up. All those are given. Other than those, anything that we really need to know, because this is a very enlightened audience, very basics to know. But there's something that you've figured from your business or otherwise, or you've read, or it's your personal opinion. Anything is welcome. But let's talk about what's going to be driving the digital economy in the coming years, because I can see all of your businesses depend on that. There's nobody in this room who's like, can think, to us it doesn't matter. That's not the fact. The fact is that, digital economy is going to be the economy in the coming years. So Abhishek, we can start pretty much with you.
Great question. And of course, as entrepreneurs, we think about it every day in terms of how can we go 10x from here. And while India is a large market, there are a couple of points that I want to make, and I would then pass it on to other panelists. So we work in a regulated environment. And typically, when you are in a regulated environment like lending or otherwise, what you expect, first of all, is the government to act cohesively. Now, if you look at it, for example, this is an unsolved problem today. The government, the judicial system, and the regulator are never saying the same thing. And what it really leads to is slowness in the system. And typically, and that's where the second problem is, that India and the investments in India are not really patient capital. They're not capital that can stay for 20 years and allow founders to create really big companies. Everybody is looking for an exit. Everybody is looking for a return. And in a market like in India, in a country like India, which is at a very early stage, it is impossible to change the game in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. It can't be thought of like a fund. It has to be thought of like a much longer patient capital, permanent capital that needs to be there. And now with the mix of the fact that there is lack of patience, and then there is less cohesive kind of approach from government, regulator, judicial system, especially in regulated environments, that causes a bit of a problem. And at least every day we would think that can we do something about it, or can somebody else do something about it? That these two aspects directly impact us. Now, when I look at other industries, the other third big thing that I see which is missing is the foundational infrastructure in the country. You can't have smart cards if you don't have good roads. You can't have the best health tech systems if your hospitals can't even talk to each other and to central depository of data. And in bits and pieces in other industries, this has been done through emergence of bureaus, through emergence of Aadhaar systems, etc. But if you look at it, and of course my other panelists will throw light on it, almost every industry has an infrastructure problem. And in the absence of a solid foundational infrastructure that typically government controls, we can't build roads and ensure the safety of everyone and ensure that taxation is simplified and things like that. So we depend on those basic infrastructure for this to become a runway. Right now it's a pagdandi, and we want for it to become a runway, government has to really lay the path.
Sure. No, Abhishek, of course, I'm glad you raised this issues, but these are impediments. These are issues which definitely exist, and they need to be sorted. We can come back to you, asking you what are the right things that are going to be happening, irrespective of what the government does or doesn't. We have seen over the years that, private citizens in the country have pretty much taken economy on themselves. That listen, government does something, doesn't do anything, we'll do it. A typical example is of a condo. Those of you who live in one would know everything, like they take care of the backup, they take care of backup power, backup water, roads, safety, all those things. And listen, we'll pay to the government the taxes that they expect, but still we'll make our own life comfortable through our own thing. So coming to my question is more towards the opportunities that will emerge because of the changes in economy, or changes that will happen in the environment that will lead to a more robust digital economy. So Deep, we can come to you. What do you see to be the positives, things which are going to be good for the growth of any digital business? Yeah, go on.
Am I audible now? Yeah, so I think Abhishek has covered it quite well. To me, technology, yes, is a given, but at infrastructure level, last mile delivery, at least in our case, like we ship about 75,000 to 85,000 orders every month. And one of the challenges that we face is while the private players are taking care of technology and logistics, one still needs last mile delivery to be fixed. And I think a lot of opportunities will come in that space. People are, whether it's shipping through drones and stuff like that is already started to take place. And I think I'm eagerly looking for that to be disrupted in this, at least in the digital economy, to say technology we've done, logistics we are already revolutionizing with good players like Rivigo, etc. But can we do something about infrastructure, railroad, flights? That's to be seen, and that's where the opportunity would be.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So those are the sectors. But at a macro level, Gaurav, what do you see to be the changes or things in the environment that will contribute to the growth of startups in the coming years?
I think, Sunil, there are two tracks, right? One track, as you very rightly said in the beginning, was largely, I would say, penetration and digitization, right? And as the number of users of smartphone, etc., has gone up, that has also in turn generated a lot of data, right? Now, the concern has been everybody talks about data, startups are talking about data, but if you look at, I'm more talking about credit and lending, right? Because for an economy like ours, the biggest impediment is lack of credit, right? Because we are a credit hungry economy, right? And even post-COVID, credit is required for the entire economy to kickstart. There's tremendous amount of liquidity in the ecosystem, but nobody is lending, right? Now, if you look at some of the infrastructural changes, which is already happening, is that because there is massive amount of trust deficit between what we call as the real risk and perceived risk, right? Nobody wants to lend below a certain profile. And to my mind, three things. One, the quality of data, and with this entire account aggregator being put in place, right? So your entire authentication of data, your consent to provide data, and then the same data is being provided to different vendors. And for your organizations, etc., to make sense, build scorecards on top of that, I think is going to be extremely important. I think that's going to narrow down the overall difference between real risk and perceived risk, right? I think that's extremely important. And also what has recently come up at least a month back on OCAN, I think that itself, the government, to be honest, I think I would just be more provocative and to what Abhishek and Deep said, the government has already put a lot of rails, right? I think it's just a matter of time. How do we use those rails effectively? I think if you look at 10 years back when everybody was talking about Aadhaar, we were still talking about that, will Aadhaar solve for anything for the 80-90% of where we are as a country, right? But we are really seeing how the entire, Aadhaar issuance and how many things are now riding on that infrastructure. Not only credit has solved for it, right? So a lot of rails have been put in place over the last 1 or 2 years. I think I'm fairly optimistic with the digital penetration going up and the amount of data we are generating. I think it's now time for us to start thinking about what are we going to really think about the quality of data. And unless and until that gets resolved, you won't see credit penetrating beyond a certain profile of borrowers, whether it is corporate or individual.
Thanks, Gaurav. So Mehul obviously, wouldn't have thought of health to be a driver for his businesses, but with pandemic and more people avoiding public transport, I'm sure you are observing the health scenario. Health is going to be a big factor in terms of people buying used cars. So, and of course, infrastructure is more important to cars than to any other sector, so to say, because if there are no roads, where do people drive? In fact, I know of a time when Japanese invested in building roads. They gave money to the government to build roads so that they could bring in Suzuki and the Toyotas of the world to India, because they realized if they don't spend money, they don't invest money on infrastructure, and they have been doing that in several countries. So now, of course, so to Mehul, it remains like, of course, he does his business digitally, as he said, but your business is of a product which is like to be seen and to be used physically. What do you see the drivers for economy in the coming years? Not just your business, but entirely.
Yeah, I think India talks about, Sunil, creating $1 trillion digital economy by 2025, right? That's a huge number. It's pretty much like a 5x growth compared to where we stand today. So I would think the growth of digital economy will be linked to three things, right? One is the core technology advancement, right? We talk about cloud, we talk about big data, we talk about IoT, like, at the core level, how is technology enhancing? Second is the access of that technology. Is it reaching to the people, and do we have the infra ready for it? And the third is the commercialization of it. Are new businesses getting developed to pick those technologies and put into use cases for real businesses to make money and create opportunities out of it? So core technology, I would say, even what we have today is good enough to create a massive headroom of growth. I'm sure it will keep enhancing every year, but I doubt that is a key area of, the opportunity scale at, which we can grow. The question is really on the other two dimensions. One is access. Right? I think mobile and smartphones have been the biggest reasons why India has seen such a phenomenal growth of digital economy, and that will continue to be critical. Like smartphone growth, I think we talk about by next 3-4 years, we should reach 700 million people in India having smartphones. That is going to be the biggest enabler across businesses and across industries for this growth. In India, we talk about 2.5 times data consumption, growing every year. We are perhaps the largest consumer of electronic data at this point of time, much more than even US or China, and that indicates the need or desire for people to use that avenue is phenomenal. So we need to make sure the infra is constantly ready to serve this penetration of access of technology to across the strata and across the tiers of cities of India. But that for me is one key lever of growth. And second, from a commercialization of using that technology into practical usage, one key theme I will highlight is I expect more and more businesses or digital platforms to leverage AI, ML, big data, but use data to convert into digital intelligence. And the more people start doing it, I think that's a skill set consistently getting seeing exponential growth in India. That will be one big driver for growth of digital economy.
Saket, what are the technologies? You obviously are, I'm sure, on a hunt like, okay, next I'm going to bring is this, next I'm going to bring it. And you are doing business with technology companies, right? Who already know a lot. So you really have to tell them what they don't know. So can you tell us, the people in this hall, by the way, there's a large number and it's really going as a virtual event, as you guys would know. There are a lot of people logged in who are sitting on their chairs and listening to you virtually. So for the benefit of all of us, Saket, if you can tell us, what is it that you're going to bring, or what is it that you want to tell? And by the way, a large number of people who are listening in or have logged in today are startups themselves. So tell us what trends, what are the emerging technologies tomorrow, not today, tomorrow.
Sure. So maybe I'll go to the fundamental first on what I am looking for when I look at futuristic tech. So three things. Is it solving a really deep problem which no one has even thought about? For example, can you charge a phone battery in 5 minutes, or can you make someone on the wheelchair stand up and walk again? Right? So I'm talking about really impossible problems to solve. Is it a must-have problem? Like if I go to a customer to pitch it, they have to be idiots to say no to it, right? And the third thing I'm looking at is it very futuristic and very ROI driven? Can it sort of solve for India as a market where people are very price sensitive? Having said that, when I go to Israel and I look at drawing a parallel to the Indian market, I am seeing a lot of disruption that is supposed to come in the digital health space. For example, today you go to a clinic, every time you have to do a urine test. Can you do it using your smartphone and a litmus paper test, which is delivered at your home in real time, right? Or instead of going to a doctor which uses a stethoscope, can you have a small device and do a video conferencing? The doctor can automatically read how your health is. Second, I see food tech as a big space. If you may have noticed, there's a lot of disruption happening in the meat space. There's a lot of plant-based meats coming, and there are a lot of analytics that will play into role as to if Nestle wants to manufacture a specific kind of say spice or a chips brand. How do they figure out which flavor would work the best, right? To Two other sectors I feel very interesting would be Industry 4.0 and smart cities. In India, we actually waste a lot of time in things which we're not supposed to do, right? We waste a lot of time in traffic jams. We waste a lot of time in having someone just to operate a lift. So how can we bring automation into machinery? How can we build predictive maintenance? Would really add a lot of productivity to Indian in manufacturing industries. And lastly, I would say smart cities is another vertical that I see. How do you add computer vision, safety to the general public at large? So these are few areas that I see is the future.
I really wish we had this much more time. If we spent 35 minutes, I honestly think we had stuff to be talked for another 35, if not more. But I'm being told on my private chat that no, you can't do that. So I think Abhishek, Gaurav, Deep, Mehul, Saket, I'll have to thank you at this stage, thank the audience, and it's a wonderful discussion. And of course, our editorial at Businessworld would be in touch with you for more of your opinions in the coming months and weeks. Thank you very much for joining in this afternoon.